Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. Welcome to Symbaroum. It's Wednesday night. That's what we do on Wednesday nights. We tell tales of dark fantasy using the wonderful Symbaroum system not from Telling Tales. We didn't do it. Oh my god, no, from Free League. Thank you. So let's get the pesky old promotion out of the way. There's a bunch of links down below. There's links to YouTube and Twitch. You're watching this on one of those two. Please do check out the other one, YouTube, if you want a vast catalogue of our prior streams, and Twitch if you want to catch us live, as some of you are doing now. There's also links to our social media, to our Discord, to our Patreon. Those all do the things you might expect, so have a dabble in those if that is what interests you. We run 3 weekly series, usually, here on the channel. One of them is on hiatus at the moment, but the ones that are currently running are Shadows of Estron on a Monday and Symbaroum, that's this, on a Wednesday. Both of those start at 8 o'clock GMT. And yeah, they're good stuff. We also run one-shots on the first weekend of every month, a single installment story that you can consume in wonderful, lovely, fun-sized bites. And we've been running those for months and months, years now, a little over a year. The most recent of which was Tales from the Loop, which happened this last weekend, and that was a lot of fun. That'll be going up on YouTube soon enough. But yeah, check out those. We've got lots and lots of systems that we've run over the last year or so: Troika and Alien and Honey Heist and Dune and Wanderhome and 1,000 others. And by 1,000, I mean maybe about 10. So yeah, that is our promo to this moment. My promo has lasted a little longer than normal because I am desperately vamping because a couple of our players are going to be slightly tardy in their arrival time. But I think I've done about as much as I can now. Clutch! Look at him arriving there at the bottom, just as I talk about how I'm going to have to vamp a bit further. What a guy! It's not the person I'm talking about, though. Someone else is going to come along first and talk about how we started last week's session. It's John. Hi, John. John plays Arindar, the last scion of House Dar. We'll even have some art up for him in a second if John decides to do that. Just doing everything myself today. It's fine.
I was so distracted by our surprise last person just suddenly popping up, and it threw me off.
Threw you off. Yeah. So Arindar, last scion of House Dar, last inheritant of a noble house. How did it kick off last week, John?
It kicked off the way it mostly continued, with us wandering through the forest with Meerkat on a leash. We are trying to find, is it the Hall of 1,000 Tears? A place where elves are, and the only clue we have to its entrance is that we had a mysterious tuba and we have a meerkat, and we fed the tuba to the meerkat, and the meerkat is leading us to the place. Hopefully not just randomly leading us into the forest for no reason.
That is the hope. Yeah, so let's bring on our second player. It's Sam. He plays Askarai, changeling. Oh god, stop it! I control the cameras. He plays Askarai, the changeling ranger and scout, and mower down of hordes of foes with that machine gun bow. Hi, Sam.
Hello. Yeah, it's we've been wandering through Davika. I love the idea that we've been feeding this meerkat like a large trumpet as the tuba to get him.
Yeah.
That thought just popped into my head. But anyway, so we are following the meerkat, who was doing a great job, fantastic work. When he kind of led us to a bit of a clearing with a woman who I think was an Odav woman, sort of looking a bit beaten up, scratch marks and bite marks, and she was just sort of like yelling. I think in the end, Anton figured out she was yelling like "Stay back, stay away from me," in the desperate tones. And so we sort of accepted what she was saying and tried to stay back, but as we tried to discreetly move around her, we were not successful.
I believe
And
the meerkat decided to have a sniff.
yeah, that well was a very interesting sight for Davokar. And so yeah, we strayed a bit too close, and the woman who was holding some kind of very dangerous, sharp-looking axe suddenly turned into an abomination, which is something we have kind of experienced before, but is always very dangerous. In this instance, I think we managed to deal. We fought the abomination, but we managed to deal with it quite calmly relative to how we've dealt with abominations in the past, which has been very difficult. I think at the end of the Slayer, there was an abomination.
Yeah,
at the end of our first
very first, apart from the prologue, but the very first storyline after that, yeah, it really highlighted your power creep.
Yeah. It definitely was not. We didn't come into such trouble as we had in the past. We managed to escape mostly unscathed. And yeah, we took down the abomination, and then we had I think Askarai and maybe Elindra or Anton, two of us noticed this axe as we were kind of walking off. We had a look at it. We sort of realized this is a very nice axe, but it's also clearly corrupted in some way, clearly cursed by Davokar in some kind of fashion. And partly thanks to the disapproval of Lysindra, the silent disapproval of Lysindra, we decided to leave it there, bury it, and perhaps pick it up on the way back, depending on what exactly was going on. Then we just kind of carried on following the meerkat, see where it would take us next.
Yeah, pretty much. And to talk to us about where it did take you next, let's bring on Mike. Mike plays Anton Theogoprios, holy man, deeply devout worshipper of Prios, and roller of usually terrible dice, although last week it seemed to bizarrely flip around to some good rolling. So we'll see if that continues this week, huh?
It won't. Yeah. So we were traipsing through this cursed wood, and we heard like a kind of strange like singing, like a high-pitched singing. It turned out to be like a nursery rhyme, like an old Ambrian nursery rhyme. And upon further inspection, we found it to be coming from a young boy on his own walking through the forest. I think Askarai kind of saw him first, and then like the rest of us kind of caught up with him. And that turned out to be Aluin, who is the adopted, I think I got this right, adopted son of Father Salvola.
That's spot
on. And he was 2 days from Thistlehold, walking all alone, carefree in the woods, singing a merry song to himself. And we kind of like just chatted and were a bit concerned about what he was doing here. He basically kind of gave the impression that he is just, I don't know, just like a semi-mythical magic boy, because like, yeah, he was apparently under no harm, spent a lot of time in the forest. So we just kind of watched agog as he disappeared, although there was actually something else that happened just before he left. Arindar asked if he'd been present at our campsite the night before, and Aluin said, "No, that wasn't me, but you know who that was."
Yes, because Aaron had seen a familiar figure outside the camp, especially familiar if you've seen Fetters of Stone, our Symbaroum main campaign spin-off that, among others, starred Arindar.
Yeah. And that was it.
I'd just like to add that semi-mythical Magic Boy is my favorite anime genre. And we will move on to Stephen. Hello, Stephen. You all right?
Hi there. How's it going?
It's awesome. So
Fantastic.
Stephen plays Alindra, former Templar, now turned whacker of people with swords for money. Well, money and glory, and maybe some righteousness along the way.
Yeah.
If righteousness pays.
I think more just for something to do than anything else.
You get bored before video games.
She's kind of found herself in Thistlehold and now Davakar, and like, what else do you do in these places?
Absolutely. So what location was stumbled upon next, Stephen?
So we found I guess some ruins is the best way to kind of describe it. I'm not entirely clear on ruins of what, but some form of kind of civilization had been here at some point. So it was decided that maybe this was the place to sort of to camp for the night. It was kind of a nice clearing. And so while the tents were being pitched, Alindra and a couple of the others, I think, was it Askara and Anton?
I think so, yeah.
Just went and had a little poke about and to see what they could see. Essentially, is there treasure here? So I think one of them found a small hand drum that seemed like it was kind of maybe magical in some way, powerful in some way. There was it like a statue?
Yeah, like a little statue of some kind was definitely like something someone found.
Yeah. So that was good. Alindra mostly noticed that it's very cold here, and that there were an unusually large number of bones here.
Cold and bony. Yeah.
Cold and bony, which is not as exciting a thing to find as treasure, but perhaps a useful warning sign.
Yeah, absolutely. And to tell us about the results of that warning sign, let's bring on our final player, Chris. Chris plays Steo, former infantryman, former guardsman, turned full-time grumpy, curmudgeonly sellsword. So, Chris, how did we wrap up last week?
Hello, dice friends. So basically, getting the feeling that Lysindra is a bit of a Davakar driving instructor for this is kind of judging us and kind of guiding us around the easy parts of Light Davakar. We, of course, brought back the news of the cold and bony situation, and she immediately said, "We better go then." Steel kind of... Steel's not a big fan of cold and bony and Davakar, so probably would have suggested the same thing even without the huntress giving us guidance. So we packed up and moved about like 200 meters to the west, I think, and built our lean-to in the forest again. And then as night fell, the fog kind of rolled in over this deserted and forlorn hillside, and little frost lights, little blue lights started distilling out of the air and moving around in little patterns. And Lysindra made it pretty clear that this would have been bad news had we have stayed where we were.
Absolutely. Very bad news indeed. But bad news that you managed to escape. So, well done. Well done, you. Well done, all of you. So that is where we will pick up this week, or rather, we will pick up the following morning. You had another evening of camping in Davakar. You set watch. Nothing of note happened overnight. And in the morning, you wake, you strike camp, and you start letting the meerkat lead you through the forest again. And it's very apparent quite quickly this morning, Arendar, because you're the person, I believe, holding the meerkat's leash, that your guide starts quite quickly tugging at the restraints this morning as you start moving. And then before long starts letting out a kind of eager whining noise as its paws kind of scrabble slightly in the leaves and the dirt of the forest floor in order to try and get you to go faster, basically.
I think I will break into, I guess, like a gentle jog.
Sure. Yeah. You're in a relatively open area of Bright Davakar. There's, not too much undergrowth, and you find yourself kind of like jogging gently along a slightly beaten path, seemingly towards you. You can see there's a break in the trees not too far in front of you. Is everyone else kind of starting to follow Aaron with an increased pace? Generally, yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
So you emerge into a grove where the ground is covered by fallen fiery yellow and deeply red leaves. The meerkat sniffs the air and starts scratching the ground with its ears twitching back and forth.
Is this it then, John? Aaron?
Okay.
Is this it then?
I suppose it doesn't really look like much.
Suppose we're going under the forest, so I suppose we should look for an entrance.
Perhaps dig where it's pouring the ground.
Yeah. None of us have really fed a tuber to a meerkat before, so.
Can I try and, like, if there's a covering of leaves, like, kick it aside wherever meerkat's trying to dig?
You absolutely can, and you can. It's definitely not kind of digging; it's just like scratching, almost kind of in excitement. But you can step forward and kind of start clearing the leaves out of the way with your foot, or with your hand, for that matter. And as you do so, the meerkat kind of sits down on the ground, sort of kind of hunched over in that way that cats do, and it closes its eyes and lets out a long, continuous howling meow. Or yowling meow, I should say. As it does so, a strong gust of air suddenly hits the grove and very quickly escalates, blowing kind of leaves, dirt, and debris from the ground and turns them into kind of small, whirling columns of air and detritus that start to move together at the center of the grove.
Okay.
It's fine to have no reaction, by the way, and just wait for
I think
whatever's
my
happening
reaction-
to happen.
I think I'll just grab my spear.
I think I take a few steps back.
Sure, absolutely. Before your eyes, that detritus being whirled through the air merges into something that looks more and more like an archway. And then, in a moment, the wind dies. And you can see that this archway, this portal is there, framed in these fallen autumnal leaves, bits of kind of twigs and bits of dead wood and earth, and through it you can see a short corridor with floors of vulcanized glass, the walls clad in shimmering algae, and the far opening covered by a drape made from vines of green and brown. Elindra, can you give me a vigilant test, please?
Sure. I typically fail these, but let's have a go. I'm looking for a 10. I get a 12. There we go.
Okay. In that case, can everyone else give me a vigilant roll at -5, please?
Not for me.
I got a 1.
Ooh. Well, thankfully, Askarai, you don't kind of see anything, or you get a very immediate sensation. Like sometimes, when magic and mysticism is worked, you can almost feel it in the air, and you feel like a pressure and a sense that something is being held together in the grove, and that something may not last terribly long.
Okay, I'll say this to the group. I'm not sure we have much time to move through this. we should go now and start heading forward.
Yeah, I'll take my flail out and follow him straight away.
Sure. The meerkat is more than happy to do so and kind of bounds up and scampers through the portal. Lysindra Golden Grasp shoulders her pack more tightly and walks forward with a kind of slightly excited expression on her face. And unless anyone doesn't wish to do so, you all pass through this mystical portal. And as you do so, shortly after the last person goes through, which we will say is Arindar, maybe. Shortly after you step through, you kind of hear the archway collapse behind you into a pile of twigs, leaves, and dirt. But when you look round, there's nothing but kind of a rock face. So you are in this passageway, and I'll just describe it again because things were happening. So I'll describe it again for you. It's a short corridor with floors of vulcanized glass. The walls are clad in shimmering algae, and there's a far opening at the end of the corridor, which is covered by a drape made from vines of green and brown. It's not very long, and it's not very far away. And also, I would like to ask a question of everyone. What's everyone's permanent corruption listed as?
Mine is 0.
Zero.
0. You're on mute, Mike.
0.
0. 0, 0, 0. I'm kind of surprised that Elindra's is 0.
Ward for the Dawn or Dusk, whatever it is.
Yes.
Started out with some corruption.
Out at 1, but all good now. Okay. That's absolutely fine then. So what are we doing?
What's it sound like in here? Are our footfalls resounding as though we're in some kind of massive, like there's a cavern thing going on, or is it kind of very tunnely and dank?
You know what? I'm going to say that there's an odd, hushed sensation to your footsteps, as if the noises you each individually make are kind of just reflecting back at you, and nothing else. There's almost an odd sense of silence to the tunnel that you find yourself in.
What's Lysindra doing?
She is looking kind of excited, but at the same time, and definitely looking towards that kind of drapery of vines, but is also kind of stood back a bit.
Okay. I think we've made it, one or another. Just, I guess, be careful of whatever is on the other side of those vines.
I think Elindra's probably going to find this tunnel quite unsettling because it kind of seems to be a place like in between places. So I think that and sort of bravado means I think she'll make a point of trying to make her way to the front and to be among the first people to sort of go through that curtain.
Battling that personal uncertainty with an outward display of boldness. Yeah, fair enough. I take it we are moving through the drapery of vines, otherwise it's a long way to come for sitting in the antechamber.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we? We've got the map, right?
You do have the map.
So
yes.
I think that Anson would probably take the map out at this point, and also if we need to light a torch to see better.
You definitely don't need to light a torch to see. The algae is giving off a very kind of pleasantly pitched greenish bluish, whitish bioluminescence, and there is also more light coming from behind the drapery. Okay. You move through, and you see this. So, the hall behind the curtain is about 20 paces wide, 15 paces deep, and the height of 3 men, rising to a natural cave ceiling. The latter is overgrown with moss that emits a soft pale blue shine, and long threads of shimmering algae hang all the way down to the cave floor, each a few paces apart. Along the side where you've entered, there are 5 other openings covered in similar vine draperies. On the opposite wall are 2 arched doorways whose massive gates are closed. The walls at the short ends of the hall display something that looks like large mosaics, but they, rather than being carvings or drawings, they are plant and flower arrangements whose color and life force seem to have been preserved by a mystical means. 3 beings are in the hall. On a moss-clad podium between the doorways on the far side, one sits cross-legged at the front edge, and 2 stand behind him, holding shallow wooden bowls up to their chests. In the gloomy light, it first appears as if the ones standing in the back are children, but as you take a few steps closer, you find that you're mistaken. The closest individual is huge, tall as a fully grown man when seated. Anton, could you give me a cunning roll, please?
I make it. Rolled a 3.
You recall that elves are said to continue growing as long as they are alive, probably meaning that the individual sitting on the podium is very old. The wrinkled face, misty eyes, and hunched posture that are revealed as you approach seem to indicate that this surmise of yours is correct. The 2 individuals behind the cross-legged figure give a slow, welcoming nod, after which one of them speaks up in a harsh elven voice that you'd guess is likely female. Anton, what level is your lawmaster? Is it just novice? You're on mute.
Yeah, just 1.
Okay,
Just
then
level.
you cannot understand Elvish. And neither can anyone else, I don't think. So how do you react to being asked a question in a language that none of you understand?
Well,
Just looking at Anton.
I think I would initially just look over at Lysindra just in case she knows what's going on.
She does indeed. She nods and turns to you all and says, she is asking what or who we come here seeking.
Well, I don't think there's any reason to hide the truth. We're here to help the this kind of muttering to the party rather than announcing it to
Sure.
we just tell them that we're here to assist with whatever is threatening the forest and whatever is coming to bring ruin to the north and the south.
We have a name, right? Of somebody that we'd like to meet.
You do. Teana.
Yeah, so that was saying that in character, deliberately not saying the name, but just like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just for the audience.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So yes, like, does there appear to be a consensus on the faces of the people that we're just going to say the name?
Lysindra kind of nods and says, "Seems a good as choice as any."
Teana. See what the responses are on the elves' faces.
There is a brief lull where none of them kind of respond, and then the figure who didn't ask the question slowly kind of bows or inclines his head, I'd say, rather than a bow, and turns to the twin gates behind him, opens them very slightly and slips through. They are left ajar.
May I take this moment to examine the rest of the chamber, at least visually?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So there isn't there aren't any other kind of objects or things of note around. The only other things that seem worthy of concerted examination are those kind of plant and flower wrought mosaics, the vegetal mosaics, as the book calls them. Would you like to have kind of a look at those?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Is it like, I suppose, is it like a fresco? Is it depicting something, or is it just kind of?
There's
patterns?
one on each side, and they're both depicting things. So I will describe those to you. The mosaic on the wall to the right of the podium depicts a scene in which about 20 people wearing iron grey clothing are walking across a landscape that is burnt to ashes in front of them and more lush the further the perspective extends behind. The mosaic to the left portrays a grove in a dense forest. A massive stone table stands at the center of the grove, and around it 13 people are assembled. The details are not fine enough to make out individual features, but it is clear that 3 of them are much taller than the rest, and they are wearing different clothes, tunics and mantles of ankle length instead of half or quarter length jackets. Go ahead and anyone who is you said you were examining these. Is anyone else kind of examining these fancy vegetal mosaics?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone who is can give a cunning roll, and you know what, Anton, you can take a +3 to that.
Hey, I don't need a +3. I rolled a 20.
Great stuff.
I rolled a 20.
Okay. Well, then no one can figure out anything about those images, but that's fine.
No, I passed.
Oh, you did pass. Okay. Every time you have met a couple elves in your time, Steo, specifically within this campaign. Every single one of them was wearing an ankle length garment. So it looks like what that is portraying is 10 humans meeting with 3 elves. You don't know what that signifies. Also, I think Chris may have frozen. Oh no, there he is.
So at the moment, are we sort of in this room that there's one of the people at the back is still here and one has gone through the door behind?
The one cross-legged is still there, and one of the individuals with the bowls held up to their chest is still standing there.
Did the one that left appear to indicate that we were expected to follow them?
No.
Okay.
No, they literally cracked the door just about ajar and slipped through it. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm mostly standing very alert, paying attention to the elves and watching Lysindra's cue.
Lysindra, for her part, seems to be kind of lurking in the back of the room and just kind of remaining inconspicuous.
I'll softly mention to the others, look at the so I don't know what that one with the confabulation is, but that other one looks like a meeting between elves and humans, maybe before the forest.
Maybe to do with their supposed agreement with the humans.
Yes, the Iron Pact.
I don't see it. It just looks like flowers.
Aaron can't see magic eye portraits.
He rolled a 20.
Yeah, if you squint slightly,
Yeah.
Aaron.
Stand back.
If you squint slightly, Aaron, you'll suppose we'll spend a minute or two trying to convince Aaron that there's a way he can see the magic eye picture while we wait for the elves to come back.
If you time is going to pass here. You are waiting and waiting and waiting some more. At least, let's fast forward an hour. At least an hour has now passed, and you have heard and seen nothing. The two elves in front of you have not changed position from where they are in any way whatsoever. The only thing I will say is that let's have, if everyone can make a vigilant roll at -5, and let's see what comes out of this.
I needed a 5. I got a 5.
Nice.
I needed an 8. I got an 8.
I failed.
Letting us down there.
I actually succeeded. I cannot believe it because I'm on -1 because the first roll of the day to determine my
you got your
stat
elderly
was a vigilant roll at -5. You monster.
Good.
But I still
Good.
passed it.
Good. I'm glad. So everyone who succeeded there, you have noticed that every now and then there's kind of a kind of fluid, like you get with a tap dripping, kind of a soft dripping noise. And over the course of the previous hour, you have worked out that it is coming from the bowl that the remaining elf at the back is holding up. The elf seems to be constantly, softly crying. And the tears are gradually dripping down into a now half-full bowl.
So this is the Hall of 1,000 Tears, where no tear falls in vain.
Where no tear falls in vain. I think after about 30 minutes, Steele would have kind of not set up camp, but definitely made himself comfortable, sat down on the floor, and kind of maybe even had a little ration pack or something.
That is absolutely fair.
And then I suppose when we come to the top of the hour, I'll probably go. We should probably just see if we can go through the door at some point. I don't know how long these things normally take.
At some point during that hour, I would have asked Lysindra what they said and if they gave any indication of when they would be back.
Sorry, I was clicking around. Could you just rephrase that? Sorry, Stephen.
At some point during that hour, I would ask Lysindra what the elves had said before the one left, and if they'd given any indication of how long they would be.
The elf didn't speak. Just after you said Teara
Okay.
Teana, they just left.
Okay.
And she kind of shakes her head and shrugs and says, "From my somewhat limited experience, elves take as long as they take. We
Fair
could
enough.
try talking to one of them.
I don't.
Maybe Father Anton can make some sense."
Well, I can try.
If you make a cunning roll, I'll let you have a broken conversation in Elvish with the one at the back. The one cross-legged is not going to respond to you.
Is it a flat cunning roll?
Flat cunning roll, yeah.
Then I make it.
There we go.
Nice.
Lysindra just kind of like, she doesn't come with you if you're going over to talk to the elf, but if you kind of look back every now and then, she'll like maybe shake and nod her head to try and like encourage you to yeah, that's right, or that's because you know a few words, and you can kind of like British tourist in Spain it a bit. So are you going to kind of approach the elf, or are you going to kind of stay where you are and call a bit further across the chamber? Or
I won't go like right up close or anything, but I'll definitely take a few steps forward so the elf knows that I'm addressing them but being respectful. And I guess I'll, in a very broken Elvish, just try to say, like, we wait, something like that.
She nods and says, "Yes. The one you seek will come.
I'll turn back to the party and explain that.
Lysindra kind of calls, does a whispered stage hiss over to you and says, that was not a formal case. You're welcome to talk. Essentially, she's saying that if the elf, it would have sounded different if the elf would have used different words if they were expressing that you shouldn't be talking to them.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess.
And Tom, ask about the corruption that's coming. Do they know? Is there danger in the forest?
We are here because of the corruption. We want to help.
That is good. There is much corruption.
Now there is more corruption.
There is always corruption.
Ask them why they're crying.
All I can think of is the "Why do you cry?" which is a quote from something that I can't place, but I know that Matt knows it.
Why are you so sad?
I'll sort of nod towards the bowl and the tears and shrug my shoulders, like shake my head. Why are you crying?
We cry to fill the well of tears. My bowl is emptied 3 times a day, so that no tear should fall in vain.
And why did you start crying? What?
She says something you don't quite understand, and Lysindra calls out from behind you. She says you wouldn't understand.
I'll indicate the mural on the wall and ask, who are the men in the mural?
It portrays the council where the elf Prince Eano signed the Iron Pact with 10 human chieftains. Can you give me a cunning roll, please?
I make it.
Call it.
You recall you have heard this legend before, and tied in with it is the legend of kind of, because like Alberator was settled by migrants coming southward, back over the Titans. It's like a remigration of your people moving north from the horrible events of the war that's corrupted your homeland. And tied in with all this legendary is the notion that one of the humans who signed the Iron Pact with the elves was a chieftain called Argallo, who is, at least within myth and legend, is the direct forefather of Queen Corinthia.
Okay.
Who that might be among these 10 men portrayed, you have no idea.
Well, I will whisper under my breath the name Argallo and see if there is a sort of a flicker of recognition or anything.
No.
Face. Okay.
If you're asking after the other mosaic as well, the elf says that the other one portrays the battle and victory over Symbar, won without weapons in hand. You have no idea.
Is Anton sort of relaying these answers back to us? You're in full translator mode.
Yeah.
I think at some point, at a suitable break in the conversation after they mention the Well of Tears, I will just say, like, the witches outside Thistlehold said that the well had sent them a warning.
Maybe it was this well and not the well in Thistlehold.
That's what I wonder.
Ask Anton, does the well warn of corruption or calamity?
You asked that, Aish.
Yeah.
The elf says the phrase you didn't comprehend before, which you now know is you would not understand. So, as this conversation goes on, I feel like you're in a position to maybe get a glimpse at what's past that ajar doorway. By the way, and Tom, and both the elves don't seem to have any interest in kind of keeping you really far back or anything. They seem perfectly fine for you to step onto the podium and look around at the mosaic and stuff. And you can see that beyond that opening is a hall that is lit by algae, just like the Sentry Hall, but it looks huge. Here and there are crudely cut or possibly natural pillars rising from the floor, covered by algae that in places is concentrated into tiny clusters, like bright stars on a pale summer night sky. You can see a couple of groups of slowly wandering people, probably elves, walking past at quite a distance. And at some point near the end of your conversation with the elf, a wild boar piglet wanders right into view of the door, sniffs the air, and gives you a short, short black-eyed pig stare before turning and wandering away in disinterest.
How's our meerkat faring through all this? Sitting around.
The meerkat has curled up on the moss-covered podium and fallen asleep.
Oh.
I will ask if we can look down the passageways behind them, past the gates.
No. What would you be seeking?
Well, we are here to learn and to help, and we thank you for your assistance. And we wondered if there would be more things to learn in this place.
That is not for me to say. So, no, carry on.
Sorry, so does the glimpse of the space on the other side of those doors resemble the map that we got from the lockup?
I haven't particularly got an answer for you. Let's have a look at the map. I can have a wee look. Yeah, you know what? It kind of does. Yeah, it pretty much does. It's difficult to tell, in all honesty. I'll bring the image up here. There we go.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that is consistent? These number of entrances here. Because the side of the door you're on or like this entrance hall that you're in, which is roughly oblong like this, has those like one of the arched kind of vine-strung doorways that you came through, but there are others to either side. I think is it 6 in total, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 there.
Okay, so we're
And also this says mosaic and points to the wall here.
Oh yeah, okay, so we're in that comparatively small room at the south.
And it says really smaller, so presumably this is larger on Anadea's drawing than it actually is.
Oh, okay, wow, so this is an enormous space then, right? Because the room that we're in is not little.
It's not small, no.
Okay. And
And this is where we need to go ahead.
Oh, it's just, yeah, so the well, if that was a thing that we're going to, and I have no reason to believe that we will, but that's due north from here, right?
It says here's the passageway to the well. Yeah.
Well, we've got a map.
Regardless, time continues to pass. Another hour, and then another.
At some point, I am going to go to sleep.
Sure. Yeah.
How long? How
ahead,
long do elves live? Aaron asks to the group.
Lysindra says, "No one really knows. I think the closest thing to the truth is that potentially they never die. I've read things of sometimes they go to sleep and do not wake up. I get the sense that the sleep is more of a hibernation."
I suppose when you live forever, waiting a couple of hours doesn't really seem like much.
Yeah, they are enting you hard.
Can I bring out all of the notes and letters that we have between Anadea and Tiara Tiana and all of that sort of stuff?
Absolutely. And I'm assuming, I think we did say, but I believe you said that literally every kind of clue that you have, you've brought with you, right? So everything you found on to do with Anadea at all and all this kind of stuff, right? So, yeah.
I will subtly look about my person for those brass rubbings, and probably at this point realise that I don't have them anymore.
Sure. Sure. Is anyone else taking any action as the hours roll by?
I think Askar would also try to have a nap or something at some point. It's been a long journey.
Sure. Absolutely.
Lindra will sleep when she feels like it's like she would attempt to try and count the time since they got up in the morning. But I think she's sort of decided that it's time for a show of kind of Templar stoicism. So I think for the most part she will spend, 8 or 10 hours, if it takes that long, just mainly kind of stood to attention. Like,
sure,
she's been trained for that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So it doesn't come to a full day before something happens, but those of you with kind of a good time sense would gauge it, maybe 6 or 7 hours until anything changes in the situation. You've presumably had some food, had a nap, shared a short conversation between you, and then finally the elf who left the chamber returns. You hear him approach, you hear him step through the doorway. He turns and talks to his compatriot, and everyone give me a vigilant roll, please. And you know what? I'll let you, they're talking to each other, so it's not really broken Elvish, but given that you've just spoken some Elvish, Mike, I'll let you roll cunning at a -5. So vigilant from everyone, cunning at -5 from Anton, please.
The vigilant.
Okay, so everyone who succeeded with the vigilant hears a word and recognizes the word because it's been spoken relatively recently. and that word is Eniano, the prince who the elf mentioned was on the mosaic meeting with the humans. Did you make that cunning roll, Mike?
I did.
You did. Then you could make some sense of the exchange between the two elves. I'll refer to them as the male elf and the female elf, because the one who left, you realize now after hearing him talk, is male, and the one who stayed is female. The female elf says, "Problems?" The male elf, "We met Prince Eniano. He wanted to talk." "Oh. How is he?" "It is a bad day." The male elf takes their position in the hall. And not too long after, maybe a minute or so, you all hear a powerful roar from somewhere just beyond the gate. It goes silent for a while, and then the same voice begins to laugh, first in a restrained fashion, then wilder and wilder, and finally turns into a violent crying and angry whimpers. You hear a woman raise her voice, "Find your calm, Prince." And the male voice goes silent. It's worth noting that "Find your calm, Prince" and Tom heard it, and I'll let you understand it. But it was in Elvish. But either way, it's quite a disconcerting set of things to hear, whether you understood the word spoken or not. The elves in the room have not reacted in the slightest.
I will translate all of that to the group.
So the prince is coming. The prince who wants us dead.
No, I don't think it's that prince. Maybe? No, that would be very strange.
No, that's a crown
No,
prince.
this is
Thistlehold, surely.
no. Look, Lindra, it's that prince. I'll point up at the flower wall. That's an Eniano. Impossibly old. There's no way. This would have been before Alberator.
How many
Descendant,
people?
perhaps?
How many people do you know who go by the name of the Prince?
I mean, there is more than one prince in existence. Well, not prince.
There are none in
not
Ambria,
prince.
right?
He's
So,
there.
like,
there are multiple
Fine.
people. There multiple people are referred. Well, there's no prince as in son of the queen, but multiple other, like some children of dukes would be referred to as a prince and stuff like that as well. So
Okay.
It's going to be okay, probably. In fact, I have no idea, but I don't think it's the same prince. Insofar as that an agent of the Iron Pact warned us about the prince, and we are basically that's the Iron Pact. I point back to the flower mosaic.
It would, granted, be a really unfortunate trap to warn us about the prince and then bring us to the prince.
Lest we focus on this chicken in a cage for a while longer, I'm going to use my wonderful NPC. Lysindra looks over and says, "Prince Eniano is not the prince that Muriel spoke of."
That's a relief.
I doubt the founder.
No, that's a relief. He points at
It's not. It's flowers.
What?
She says, I doubt the ancient and renowned founder of the Iron Pact has been moonlighting as a common criminal in the streets of Thistlehold.
But a descendant, though, I mean, that's 1,000 years more. That's from before Alberator.
She shrugs.
Always a different kind of surprise in this forest.
What do we think is meant by the prince is having a bad day? Do we think that corruption has taken hold of the prince?
Being that
hope
old,
not, and it might be rude to ask.
Oh, I was not intending on asking.
I couldn't imagine the elves having much stock in a corrupted prince. It seems like they would do something about that.
I think we don't have any evidence to tell us that the elves in this room don't know how to speak Ambrian, and we should choose our words carefully.
Yes, we are effectively on a diplomatic mission. I don't know. Look, we're here to help. That's the truth of it.
I'm not really in a particular mood to speculate on why the prince might be having a bad day. I'm sure if it's relevant to us, we'll find out.
Actually,
Oh, go ahead.
Anton, would you ask them? We don't know who the sitting figure is, the giant, the elder. Do you think we could ask in a polite way?
Yeah, okay. I'll take my steps forward and with a palm outstretched indicate the elf sitting down and ask the elf behind. May you tell us about your companion here?
As you ask that, another voice in slightly broken Ambrian, a very melodic one, comes from just behind the open archway, the open gate, I should say, and says, his name is Ka Eroan. He guards gate. He
Did it
controls. Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
He controls where the doorways open. And as she finishes, she enters through the ajar gateway. Tall, dressed in a dark brown coat with a dark brown coat with the hood folded down, carrying two slender swords hanging from a wide belt with floral embroideries. The feline features have marked cheekbones, large eyes, and a small nose. Her face almost resembling a beast more than a human. She nods towards the cross-legged figure before turning her full attention to all of you. She looks at you in a way in which you might call suspicious, but not threatening. And we are all and just kind of gestures to the floor in front of the podium, and any of you who are standing, she says, "Please sit."
I will sit.
I will give a small bow and sit and bring Farron, not bring him close if he's wandering off, basically.
He is slightly wandering off, but he, in the way that he is padding slightly towards the elf who has just entered and starts kind of gliding between her legs. She reaches down one hand kind of absent-mindedly, and the meerkat sort of does the, wipes his face all along her hand and starts making the meerkat's distinctive sort of slightly high-toned odd purring noise.
Have you met Farron before? I don't know if he came here with Anadea.
No.
Oh.
Who are you? And who taught you my name? She seems to be addressing this to everyone.
Anadea asked us to assist in a matter.
I think Chris has vanished again.
Yeah.
someone else want to take over quickly.
I'll just assume that Chris was going to say, yeah, Anadeus sought us out to warn us of an impending threat to the town. And
who are you? You know my name.
Well, I am Anton, the priest.
Elindra. The Elindra.
Askarai.
I am Arindar of House Dar.
Chris, are you responding?
Steel. I hope
There
so.
is
My name is Steel.
a brief silence, and Tearteana is staring at Lysindra Golden Grasp. I am a companion of these other brave souls. Tearteana looks at the rest of you and says, "Who is she?"
Her name is Lysindra Golden Grasp.
Gillengripe.
I swiftly believe. I have now come to believe, by the way, that Gillengripe is just the original Swedish published version of Golden Grasp. So we will just call her Golden Grasp from now on.
Okay.
As soon as you say that name, Tearteana flinches and her face darkens. Her gaze wanders between you all for a while, and then she says, "Are you here at her bidding? Are you her friend and ally?" Lysindra says, "Of course, we came. We are." You can interrupt her. Go ahead and interrupt her.
Lysindra helped us through the forest and seemed empathic to our requirements to follow on with Anadea's quest.
She said she had business with you, but her business is not necessarily the same as ours. We're here because Anadea asked us for help, the five of us.
Lysindra kind of nods and says, I suppose that is true. Tearteana, you see no kind of word or signal from her whatsoever, but silently and with purpose, 10 spear-carrying elves open the door wider behind her and file through, and essentially walk over around where you're all sitting, unless any of you can kind of like leap up as they do so, and they gather around Lysindra, and one of them kind of indicates very slightly that she should stand up.
Lysindra.
This is unnecessary. This is very unnecessary. We are allies. We seek the same thing.
I'm going to take a step back and just hands up away from weapons. And I'm not with Lysindra. In body language, this is
Who's this? I've never met this person.
Lysindra, you didn't tell us what you're here for.
I am here to talk to other members of the Pact. I am a full member of the Iron Pact. The spear-carrying elves are basically having none of this. When she doesn't stand up herself, two of them reach down and grasp her, not unkindly, but also with very little room for misinterpreting what they're doing as a request, and kind of lift her to her feet and just start basically marching her out through the gateway at the back of the room.
Why do you have such a problem with Lysindra?
Tearteana looks back round at you and says, "She belongs to a group within the pact who are dangerous, aggressive. They make matters worse.
Well, she was helpful to us. I think we'd all appreciate it if she comes to no harm.
No harm will come to her other than that which she delivers herself.
It's not very reassuring, but okay.
So, you met Anadea,
Yes.
and she spoke to you of me?
No, she
No.
tried to enlist our help. She tried to warn us about impending doom. Before she could finish explaining what was coming and what she needed from us, she was swallowed by a sinkhole and killed. We have taken it on ourselves to investigate who she was, who she associated with, and what she was trying to achieve, and it has led us here. I'll kind of look around to see if other people accept that as a reasonable summary.
She warned us of great trouble coming from the forest and that assistance would be required, partially in honor of her sacrifice and partially to protect both our town, our lands, and this whole land we have come.
Tiaratiana stayed fairly impassive through this entire, and then she blinks, you think for the first time since she's entered the room, and says, "There is a threat. And it was tasked to Anadea. I regret that she has lost her life. So you wish to take on her task?"
We wish to protect and do what is right.
Her task is right, and it will protect, and it should save your town.
Then yes, I for myself, want to continue her work.
Yeah.
Do you know of it fully?
No. Only rumors and only through the difficulties that have been cast across us since we started our work.
There are humans, a group of humans, embracing the powers of corruption. They found a pathway through Davakar, brought others of their kind and struck north. They came across a god of the soil
of gold
and the land. She tips her head towards you at this and kind of inclines her head. This spirit called Eox. They took its head, brought it back to your lands, but it still lives. The head must be returned, but cannot wait longer, and cannot wait for what they wish to do. Anadea was new. My previous ally in your settlement, a tutor, mentor, a man called Vernum.
Yes.
He was also killed. I identified a replacement after some time. Anadea. She was invited here, and swore the oath of the Iron Pact, became my eyes and ears in your hold. When I learned about what had happened to Eox, I contacted her through the Mind Stone, asked her to recruit allies, trustworthy companions, and then identify the wrongdoers and reclaim the head of a god. This was you?
I think we were the allies she was trying to recruit.
She never got a chance to tell us any of this, although we did hear of the mission.
We killed the one who killed Vernon.
That is good, though I regret the loss of any life. Anadea
And
was...
we met one.
Sorry, Chris.
We met one who was, or said to have been present when Iox was taken down. He is gone now to madness and corruption.
Such is the fate of most who step foot in the forest and interfere in matters beyond their understanding. Anadea was meant to report back every day at dawn, but only did this once before silence. She did give me a final report, which I believe will help you find these corruption eaters and reclaim the head of Eox. Do you wish to hear it? She kind of tilts back on her heels and closes her eyes and then speaks in kind of, it's not a different voice, it's not Anadea's voice, but the cadence and the precision of it is like very much Ambrian, and far more Ambrian than how she is talking when she's speaking with her own voice, as it were. I believe I have found the cultists. They keep to the old tannery. I'll strike later today. The leader, an antiquities dealer called Erlaba. She blinks as if breaking the recollection.
Is that the name of the antiquities dealer that we kind of know and helped?
It's the name of the guy you saved in the second episode. Yep. He was being chased by clan beasts while he was fleeing from the site of the sinkhole and was being pursued by clan beasts, and you cut them down. He offered you a deal on antiquities and ran off into the swirling dust.
We weren't to know. On the plus side, we know where we know where his shop is. We know where to find him.
You know this man, this leader?
Yes, he owes us a small favor. Might make things interesting.
I doubt he will trade for his dark method of gaining power. When Anadea did not speak to me the next morning, I heard tell that the alarm had tolled. I gave up. It would take much too long to recruit a new agent. Too dangerous to send any of those that I have. I could not ask the Iron Pact members in the hold. as I say, too aggressive, make matters worse. You are willing to resume this task.
What exactly
Protect.
is it that we have to do? To take this god's head and return it to the forest somewhere?
Find this Erlaber, reclaim the head, and then return it to the forest. Gadramon will tell you how. Gadramon is the name of one of the witches outside Thistlehold.
The bell told. The well spoke on the day of Anadea's death due to a sinkhole and an attack from beneath, from the stricken tribe of the
No.
Northerners.
No. The well spoke to warn you of the presence of one who would take power from a god.
Oh. I think I understand, but does the... do we know if this new cult of sorcerers, of corruption eaters, have allied themselves with the remainder of the Northmen who dwell underground of the fallen tribe?
I do not believe so, but it is possible. They are twisted, made bitter by years of hatred and loss.
Did you know about the sinkhole? Did you hear that that had happened?
We
And
had heard tell.
is that connected in any way to what happened to Eox or to the warning from the well, or is that unrelated?
The mechanisms of the well are old. The warnings can be dramatic and have unintended consequences.
The well caused the sinkhole.
Or Laba's entrance, return to the town with Eox. Maybe he didn't return to the town, maybe he returned underneath the town, brought the sinkhole and the warning. There's a lot of questions, but in truth, we don't need to know the exact order of events. We need to find and recover.
Laba was not in the sinkhole when we met him, though, right?
He was fleeing from the site of the sinkhole.
I'll say those exact words, but maybe with just a little bit more suspicion in my voice.
I think if he had been in or under the sinkhole, we would not have met him. But if the sinkhole is a side effect of the warning from the well, then whatever it is the well must be warning us about must be considerably bigger than a hole in Thistlehold.
If this Alaba is allowed to eat the spirit of a god, he would be a powerful force of corruption in your land. It cannot be allowed.
What do we need to know about the corruption contained within this god's head?
The god is not corrupt. The act of devouring it is. There is no threat other than that which this man brings. Stop him. Return the head. And do it quickly so that Eox may live again.
When you describe Eox as a god, what do you mean by that? Like, what is it?
A forest god.
Like Zenatha.
It's worth noting that Arendar has not met Zanatha, or the hunter, or the stag god, or any number of other extremely powerful beings of Davakar that you guys have come across.
So I'm just
Ditto
throwing that out
Alundra,
to
I
see.
guess.
I'm just throwing that out to see if it gets kind of a different reaction or
Nope.
causes the elf to be more worried. But
Nope.
Is this Alaba? It seems that someone who could take the head of a god would be extremely powerful already. Is that the case with this Alaba?
Eox would not fight.
Okay.
From the
Okay.
He
stories,
had at his command a company.
yeah, from the stories we heard, it was hard to know how large the company was, but it sounds like it could potentially have been very large.
Their axes must have risen and fallen for hours.
Tiana, if time is important here, do you wish us to return to this world now? And if so, how should we do so? Because we were guided here by our
The portal will be
companion.
opened for you. You will be returned a short distance from your hold.
I have one more question. I can't speak for the others, but I will take on this task regardless. I think the consequences are too grave if we don't. Anadea mentioned payment for services rendered. Is this something that might still be possible?
It is possible. There are things that we can offer, artifacts, training, cleansing rituals, precious things. She says the latter almost kind of dismissively. These can be negotiated on completion of the task, should you wish them.
Thank you.
Do we want to ask any more questions of Tiara Tiana, the powerful elf of the Iron Pact, while you are in the Hall of 1,000 Tears? It seems a point where if you have any burning questions about various things, perhaps Tiara Tiana will have answers to them. If you don't, that's fine.
one. I'll definitely speak up here. I have one quick, perhaps warning, maybe request. I don't need too much in terms of payment, in terms of artifacts, but in terms of services. I have names of other corruption eaters, sorcerers, dark artists who brought the sickness to the Southlands. If we complete the task, may we pass these names to the Pact and pray that the wielders of those names are found dead.
Give these names to the human Gadramon, and the Iron Pact will know of your advice.
That is sufficient for me. Thank you.
Is there anything else from anyone else?
I'll ask, who are you and what is your role here?
I am an agent of the Iron Pact. She kind of shrugs as if kind of not really understanding your question as such.
We've met agents of the Iron Pact before that you say we cannot trust, some that have seemed to lack understanding of what is going on. Why should we trust you above those, and what information like you seem more aware than the ones we've met in the past.
The Iron Pact is not a single pillar. Each group tries in different ways to ease the effects of the human's quest to subjugate the pure power of creation. No rulers, no chieftains. Many have lost hope, claiming that the world is only saved by the destruction of humankind. Others still hold that humans can be convinced of the truth.
And the truth is?
She seems to struggle for a moment to express herself in Ambrian. The foundation of the world is creation. Every time this is violated by taming, manipulating, cultivating, this force reacts in defense, creating what you call corruption. This reaction grows stronger with the force of violation, sometimes so strong that it destroys itself. This has happened before, many times before, and the Iron Pact, we hope it does not happen again. Nevermore.
Nevermore. I would like to ask one other thing while we have you here. I'll kind of take my spear out and go. This was King Hurian's spear.
If you yeah, I can't even.
I had another question,
kill
but I
me.
think after that we're getting yeeted out of the gate, aren't we?
Are you actually doing that? Because I can tell. I will tell you right here, Chris, for once and for all, there is no more story behind the spear. I honestly have no idea what you think there is beyond the detailed and precise and satisfying story it already has.
Okay. God.
An ancient Symbaric king used it to kill a big old toad monster and probably a bunch of other stuff. And it was his personal spear, and he was corrupted into a form of living death that you eventually put him out of. That's it. That's the whole thing.
Okay.
That is a pretty cool spear.
It's pretty cool, right? Not cool enough for Chris.
If assuming that we haven't been immediately yeeted out of the Hall of a Thousand Tears for that, I would like to ask about Mayara, who is the Iron Pact member that has some association with Lysindra.
Mayaroel. It's difficult.
Mayaroel. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I got that wrong. Is he? You consider him to be part of this group of the Iron Pact that are too aggressive, or would you consider him to be trustworthy in this matter?
He is the one who has driven Lysindra Goldengrasp to this extremity.
Okay, so we shouldn't do any more work for him. He sent us. He sent us in the direction of the Red Eye, who were a cult in Blackmoor that worshipped somebody that had become corrupted in the forest. And I never understood why. unless it was either a test to make us prove ourselves, or if it was some demonstration of his credibility as an
if
information.
he's part of the Iron Pact, regardless of his kind of personal politics on how things should be treated, a cult like the Red Eye would needs to be removed.
Okay, but that wasn't necessarily related to the Anadea Aox business. This is what I'm trying to ask, essentially.
Tiana kind of shrugs and says, the dealings of this individual are not within my knowledge.
Thank you.
Within Thistlehold, we have been hunted by a cult leader called the Prince, or that calls himself the Prince. Do you know who this is? Could it be Alaba?
I have not heard of such an individual.
Okay.
The only thing I know of Alaba are the words spoken to me by Anadea.
Okay.
Before you arrived in this chamber, there was a great cry and a wail from outside. Would it be impolite to ask if everything is okay?
Yes.
Do you know of the location of the barbarians that were living under Thistlehold, where they are now? We believe they.
No, you finish.
I said we believe they fled underground north into Davakar.
We have seen signs that this has happened. The passageways below Thistlehold lead north, overground to the forest. There has been talk of foraging parties, attacks. It seems likely.
If we need to contact you again, will that be possible?
No. The Mind Stone, please.
Who was she addressing that to?
You in general.
Nice. I'll check my pockets for a Mind Stone.
She said that she had communicated with Anadea using the Mind Stone.
We didn't recover anything like that, did we?
Still.
There was a medallion. That was the House Erebus coat of arms.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you a straight up clue. It was on Anadea's body.
Stones. Wasn't it sewn into like a secondary pouch somewhere, or is that something else?
Looked like a golden pearl.
That was the Erebus crest.
Yeah.
We certainly didn't sell it. Is someone keeping it in a box somewhere?
I'll just double check where it does come from in the thing, but I'm pretty sure it's found just on Anadea's body.
I think I vaguely remember us finding it, but
there was a pearl. Yes, someone. It was there. Was that the thing that we all consistently failed to figure out anything else about until eventually someone came and
I think the Saber took a look at it, or maybe someone in the Order Magica. Sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, I remember we kept not finding the letter from Tian and Tiara.
Okay. There was definitely a point when somebody picked up a pearl and that we had and said, "This is powerful and dangerous. Be careful with this."
Yep, that's right. I think
After
that was
that, I have no idea where it went or who has it.
I don't think.
No, we did bring everything with us.
You brought everything with you.
Certainly didn't sell it.
It'll be with you.
So I'd say if Anton was carrying all of the evidence, then Anton would probably have it.
I think at this point, Anton's like patting all of his pockets, looking for this thing.
Sure. Yeah, Lauren said it was in the pouch. Yeah, it was in like a pouch on that Anadea had on, I believe. You find, what, and it doesn't take a lot of thinking for you to, this is the magical artifact that you found amongst all this, presumably for communication of some kind. You have it.
Do we have any more of Anadea's personal belongings?
You have everything you found. It's worth noting, by the way, that Tiara Tiana is definitely the elf that Anadea drew. In the drawing of an elf's face. You have everything that Anadea. We said you brought everything, so yeah.
Yeah. But what I guess what I meant was that did we give anything to like her like family member that we met, the drunk guy?
No, because
no,
wanted nothing to do with her. Yeah.
No, you didn't give anything. To
so if you're rooting through, I'll kind of go like indicate we should probably at the drawing. It's like we should hand that over as well. Maybe if there's any sentimental value for it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And presumably the Mind Stone as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't sure if that was something that we were required to keep, so that we can be.
No, she's asking for the Mind Stone.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I've misunderstood. Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. Anton, you pass over the Mind Stone, which is a kind of goldish pearl, and I believe, as you say, you pass across the drawing of Tiara Tiana as well. She takes it and kind of glances at it for a second again, quite impassively, and then kind of rolls it up and tucks it into her belt. The Mind Stone has kind of disappeared into the folds of her long coat. Then we have an accord.
You've mentioned that we may be able to claim some reward if we do this, but now we have no means of contacting you.
I will be present when you return the head.
Okay.
She turns to the individual, I guess you now know is effectively the gatekeeper, Kai Rowan, and says something Mike, you have no chance of understanding in Elvish. He lets out a soft, gentle, humming noise. And you kind of feel, everyone can feel something shift around you, like like when you wake up falling out of bed, sort of just that jolt of like the world has moved around you. And Tiara Tiana indicates the archway draped in vines behind you, where you came from, and says, "There."
Okay, let's go. It might not last too long.
Yeah, sort of nod and turn.
Yeah.
Thank you for your help.
Tiara Tiana gives a kind of incline, and kind of looks down at the meerkat and says something in Elvish. The meerkat like rubs its head alongside her knee one last time, and then pads over behind you.
Lysindra will find her own way back.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go.
Anyone who pushes their way through the drapery of vines will see that the flat rock surface at the end of the short corridor is now an archway again constructed of dirt and leaves and twigs and dead wood, and it is opening out onto, again, what looks to be a grove in Davokar, but definitely a different one than the one you emerged through. I take it everyone is making their way through that as fast as possible.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Okay. You do so, and moments after you all emerge on the other side, there is another kind of low humming noise, and the doorway collapses behind you into a pile of detritus on the floor of the forest grove. And you have emerged onto a day somewhat different from the one you left. Specifically, there is a thundering storm picking up overhead. The tops of the trees of Davakar are swirling in the heavy wind, and large fat drops of rain are slapping down on your heads and on the leaves under your feet. And yeah, it does not look like a pleasant day is arriving or leaving, really.
Oh, Prius's tits.
Steo.
We've no idea where we are, but we're probably quite close to Thistlehold. Seems to be light Davakar.
Let's see if we can find our way south. I think I've asked this
That's
before,
right, yeah.
but like this world obeys similar laws of physics to ours in that like you can use that old what side of the trees
What
have
side of the tree is the moss growing on,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yes, in your experience.
That's as good as I've got. So.
Sure.
I mean, we do have Askarai, who's a little bit more used to the forest, so you're officially our wizard.
This is definitely the fringes of the forest. Like, there's no way this is deeper into Davakar than, maybe an hour or so's walk, you'd estimate.
I give Farron a scratch along his flank and say, I don't suppose you can point our way back home?
Farron sits there and yawps an unpleasant, meaty smell into your face.
Worth a try.
Astra would like to try and figure out which way is south to Thistlehold.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you give me a cunning roll, and you can take a +4 to it, I think.
Okay. I make it. I rolled a 3.
Yeah, you're absolutely sure which way is south, and you know what you think. You roughly know where you are as well. And yeah, you are very, very close to the fringes of the forest into Thistlehold.
I don't think it's far from here, if I'm remembering this place right. So let's head south. Pub, then
well,
God's Head.
I think we should skirt around the back of Thistlehold so no one tries to ring any bell for a returning expedition. They can do that from time to time. And just come in quietly. Remember, we're still marked, all of us.
We may also have some Templars after us.
Do we know which part of the city the antique dealer lived in?
Yeah, you know you were given the location of his shop, which is near Antiquities Plaza.
And we also know that they congregate around the tannery as well, the cult. So we've two
old
options.
tannery.
Yeah.
You know where the old tannery is, Theo. It's in the northwest part of town, not far from the sinkhole, actually.
Yeah, and we're sort of in the northwest part of town as well. Look,
when you
let's
arrive,
get in.
You'll be in the north. Yeah.
Let's get in. Let's get back to the room and unpack.
So as you return to Thistlehold, the thundering storm has started really raging overhead. You emerge from the fringe of the forest and see ahead of you kind of the north gate is open, but surely it will be closing fairly soon as the evening is starting to draw in. You can see a couple of travelers ahead of you on the path out of Davakar, kind of hurrying their way towards the gate with the city guards kind of waving them in before the gate gets shut.
I think we just need to get into town, don't we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Go to keep ourselves low profile and quiet. We'll at least be able to get to the room and start making a proper plan.
So you make your way through the gates, the guards kind of barely giving you a second glance. Rain is hammering against roofs and pavements, and thunder is rolling across lead grey skies. People are there aren't too many people around. They're starting to kind of like run for shelter against this. There are plenty of kind of like hailstones mixed in with the rain. And as you kind of like start to cross the square in front of where the I think we've talked about the watchtower by the north gate before, you hear a fairly familiar voice call out from just the kind of opening of that town watch building, saying, "Back from the forest already?"
That's
You turn around and it's Captain Decamado.
Captain Decamado.
I have an image of.
Yes.
Yeah. He was smoking a pipe out in the lee of the storm, and now he's kind of stopped and is kind of tapping it on his boot to empty it.
Yeah, we weren't going deep. Didn't even cross Enor.
Looking for valuables?
Yeah. We did find a little statuette, didn't we? But most importantly, the most valuable thing that comes out of that forest is our own lives. So I think now we're looking for a nice drink and a sit down.
He nods and says, "I spoke to Marvello."
Ah, good.
Mhm.
We should also check in with Marvello. He has left shift.
No, he's still here. Why don't we all
No
go have a
comments.
talk?
Okay, that'll worry me, but yeah.
Coming out of
Sure.
the rain.
Very kind of you.
That thing's not going to piss on the floor, is it?
No.
He
It's a bold claim.
nods and kind of steps aside for you to step past him into the guard tower, and then kind of leads you up the stairs, and it's up to what you previously thought of as Marvello's office, but now realize it's just the guard captain's office. Steo probably already knew this, but he kind of opens the door for you, and you see that Marvello is inside, kind of seems to be working on paperwork, essentially, on a desk, on the main desk. And as he opens the door, Decamado says, quite literally, look what the cat dragged in. Marvello kind of looks up and says, close the door
Good
then.
evening.
I know that noise. Something's gone wrong, or we're in trouble, or both.
Just to establish this before I go on with this scene, you didn't talk to Marvello before you left for the forest, right?
No, we did. Didn't we give him the because I met him on the stairs, told him we were doing the thing. I think we
Okay.
told him we were leaving the town. We definitely told him we were leaving the
Oh,
town.
Yeah.
for a while.
Okay, that's fine. Decamado closes the door, and Marvello sits back and says, "So, we agreed to share information. Some great threat to Thistlehold."
Yeah.
Decamado kind of leans against a cabinet and says, "First I've heard of this."
I'll look
Well,
around the others.
I heard it from Marvello.
Yeah, it's a good idea in a town full of cults to be a little bit scarce on who you trust.
If you can't trust a guardsman, who can you trust?
So, excuse me. Sorry, sir. The storm's getting to me. We may have another one, another cult.
Marvello kind of leans back and pinches the bridge of his nose. Go on.
So, I think we mentioned this a long time ago before we were under quite such fame and suspicion. A group quite some time back came back from the deepest and darkest of Davokar, and they brought with them an artifact that they should not have brought with them. And that is the threat. We understand that they are based out of the old tannery.
Decamado kind of tips his head at this and says, "Any more information?"
We have a name.
Perhaps you should share this, and then maybe justice can be done to this person.
Desperately scrolling to find it again, even after I made my nice little list.
Matt, can I fail some kind of cunning roll to figure out whether Decamado's interest in this is purely as a guardsman or?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'll look up his stats, and we can do like an opposed roll to see if you can kind of read him a bit.
Yeah.
How about that? If I can find his stats, which I'm sure I can. It's very little issue. He says, having issue. Come on, Decamado, where are you? Oh, for God's sake. I don't think he actually has stats in here. So I'm just going to make them up. So it'll be a cunning roll, and that'll be against his resolute, I should imagine. Let's just say it's a flat cunning roll. That's fine.
Okay. I need a 10. I get a 3.
Nice.
You sense no particular ulterior motive, although it's worth saying that these rolls obviously aren't concrete and like, I want to tell the truth of what a person is saying with a roll sort of thing. But for what it's worth, you can sense no. He's being flippant and slightly arch about it, but then this seems fairly consistent with every interaction you've had with him so far. So.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that what we're talking to here appears to be town guard.
Yeah. He's
to
not
whom this is new information.
Yeah, he's not kind of going, and what's the name? And have you told anyone else?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll look around. I will look around the party just for a bit of reassurance before I blurt out the name.
Yeah, I'll sort of nod that things seem to be in order here.
It's the antiques dealer, Urlaba.
Urlaba. Yes. Are they reliable?
Obvious. Well,
he asks of Marvello. Marvello says, yes, very. They're the heroes of the sinkhole. And they always tell their friends everything.
Could we have some time to check it out? Or could someone better at sneaking around check it out on our behalf?
That's perfectly possible. A moment. Decamado walks over to a cabinet on the wall, opens it up, and inside seems to be kind of sheaf upon sheaf of kind of some rough parchment and some more formed paper with little like tabs cut in them. And he kind of it's an old-fashioned filing cabinet essentially. And he kind of flicks through until he finds a card he seems happy with. He pulls it out, sort of reads it through, nods and passes it to Marvello, who gives it kind of reads through, and the room is in silence unless anyone's going to talk. And Marvello takes kind of about a minute to read this and then says, okay, well, I'm convinced. He holds it out for one of you should you wish to read through this.
I think as the guardsman, I'll recognize a record when I see one.
Sure. I'm going to put this on stream now. Now, I know what this says, and I have trouble reading it because they've done it in like proper handwriting.
Cursive.
So I'll just put it up, and if someone can read it, if they find it easy to read it, then someone will read it. Otherwise, I'll read it myself.
Go on, I'll do my best. Oh my God, I regret it already.
Yeah, I'll read it. If you want.
I think I
got
could probably. Okay, go for it.
Antique dealer, lowborn noble, settled year 17 from
Inderos, that says.
Inderos, yes. probable cultist, probable killer, probable cult traitor,
Cult leader.
cult leader. Year 18. Alone.
Yeah, right. It just gets
It just gets worse.
You know what? I'll read it because otherwise I feel the drama of it may be lessened, and I'll try and keep it on screen while I do it. Oh god, no one looked.
Not
there
looking.
We go. That's fun. So does that now? Does the screen now have the
Yes.
the notes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And I will read it out so you can follow along with it to a certain degree. So, which will be nice. Here we go. Desperately trying to click to the right place. It'll be fine. I'm nearly there. There we go. Yes. Alaba, antique dealer, lowborn noble, settled year 17 from Indaros, probable cultist, possible killer, possible cult leader. Year 18, alone to survive when the rest of his family, wife and 4 children aged 0 to 9, were strangled to death, exsanguinated, and left to hang by the feet from a beam in the ceiling. Claimed to have been at a business meeting with Wizard, Desidera, who backs the statement and implies a love affair. Door broken and valuables missing. Year 18. Highly corrupt statuette stolen from warehouse in the northwestern district. 2 guards brutally murdered. Using mystical means, the owner traced the item to Alaba's home. Claims to have bought the statuette in good faith from fortune hunter Gendler. Investigation terminated when Gendler is found dead wearing necklace from the warehouse. Year 19. Beastly cult exposed in the village Glimmer. The cult leader's last wheezing words were Ambriagos, Alaba, Ambriagos. According to OM, Ambriagos was a tyrannical Symbarian noble house, possibly worshipped by the cult. Alaba is questioned, acts bemused, has never been to Glimmer. Year 20. Was seen with the changelings Clagander and Sibella, wanted in relation to a series of robberies and murders with dark overtones in Indaros. Claims they contacted him, offered to sell him artifacts which proved to be trash. Year 20. The antique dealer Giorlio found poisoned, with intestines spilled out and self-inflicted wounds all over the body. 3 witnesses speak of a black-dressed visitor 3 days earlier. 1 identifies Alaba. Unconfirmed, especially since the key witness suffers from dementia. Decamado says, quite a little list.
He's really something, isn't he?
Well,
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but hung up by the feet from a beam in the ceiling, strangled, exsanguinated. Doesn't this sound like your little guild friend from the other week?
Does it resemble what we saw in Erok's basement?
Yeah, absolutely it does.
Yeah. So, yeah, I will say Erok.
More sorcery than flesh crafter.
Tannery. The old tannery. They've been trying to sell that for a year now. No one will buy it.
Who has?
The city. Possible interests from some, including some merchant, but we couldn't verify his identity, so we didn't sell.
It's strange to have a plot of land in this town that doesn't sell.
Why will no one buy it?
Smell.
Isn't that part of a tannery?
But they don't want to use it as a tannery.
Oh.
We already have a tannery, a new one.
It would also help mask the distinctive practices involved with the flesh crafting we have seen so far and other dark arts. Oh, yes. God, this is going to be a busy night, isn't it?
Gore does have such a horribly persistent smell. All right. Well, I think we know where we need to go. Marvello nods and stands up and they both start kind of buttoning on very heavy cloaks against the rain. Decamade, does anyone say anything as they start doing this?
I'm going to just ask to confirm, are we doing this now?
Doing what now?
I think it's a
Visit-
nice night for a walk.
Visiting the tannery?
Oh no. No, we need some authority for taking a look on this public land. And we're also under orders to, report in any further cult instances.
To who?
Are these the nicest clothes you all have?
No, these are Davakar clothes.
Well, I suppose that'll lend some credence to it. We're off to see Night Pitch. You're coming with us.
Oh,
Okay.
Been trying to get a chat with him for quite a while now. This is fortuitous, with literal fear in his voice.
Marvello nods and says, "Yes, I'm sure you're very happy with this result."
The artifact that this Alaba supposedly has, we need to take it with us.
More to the point, it needs to go back to the forest.
Decamedo nods and says, "Of course, of course. Well, you tell that to Lassifor, and we'll see what happens."
Let's do it.
Decamedo kind of opens the door to the guard captain's office for you and says, "Please."
Guess we'll wander out.
You all kind of trudge down the stairs and out into the northern square of Thistlehold. The rain really unpleasantly hammering down now, and start trudging away south to Nightholm. And I think we'll wrap up the stream there, unless anyone has any last words, last things they want to say.
Great.
Yeah. There we go. So, thank you for watching, everyone. If you've got any comments or questions, please sling them into the chat and we'll discuss them in just a second. But first, promo time. There are links below. YouTube, Twitch. You're watching on one, please check out the other. There's also links to our social media, our Discord, and our Patreon. We're currently running 2 streams a week. Mondays is Shadows of Esteren, Wednesdays is Symbaroum. They both start at 8 o'clock in the evening GMT. Our World of Darkness anthology series will return. It's just on hiatus at the moment. That'll probably come back in May. We also run one-shots on the first weekend of every month, the most recent of which was Tales from the Loop. It happened last Sunday, and it'll be going up on YouTube soon. And all of our previous one-shots, lots of different systems and fun games are already over there on YouTube to check out. And that's it. That's the promo. So, what do we got? Huh? Cat Ate My Homework / Priceless Prophecy. Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. It's definitely trips off the tongue better than Changeling stole my homework / Priceless Prophecy.
Is there a little box for what happens if we're stupid enough to somehow manage to get the artifact into the same room as the elves?
No, there isn't actually. No. It does more or less completely assume that if you recover Sarkamal's prophecy, that you will give it back to Captain Decamedo.
Okay.
So it does say what happens if you don't, but it doesn't say what happens if you give it to other people, if that makes sense. Like it does say what Decamedo does if you don't. Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's absolutely, we have no reason to give it to anyone else.
Yeah, 100%. I just feel like that rings a little speedrun strats exploitation bell in my head.
You want to speedrun this campaign?
Yeah, I clip through the wall so I can get into the Hall of Dreams and then give them the tablets, and that skips to credits.
I'd like to stand in the corner and repeatedly jump.
Worth noting, before I forget, by the way, thank you we've had a follow tonight from ICB Moose. Thank you so much. He's also joined our Discord, I know. So
what a great name.
Yeah. Next. Steve, have you got a better spear? This one's rubbish.
It is it's lackluster, gentlemen.
It is not.
It's not technically an artifact, so that's there are better spears out there, I'm sure.
Yeah. In fairness, it's not trying to suck my spirit out. But
it's not corrupting you just by using it, so that's a plus. That's a plus.
That's the trade-off you've got to make in Symbaroum. Interesting
Just life
story.
in general.
Eating
also,
your soul.
Big shout out to Aberg, who actually gave me the idea to ask about the spear.
Curse you!
I did see that one as well.
Next. Another Steve, you can see why elves don't bother trying to deal with humans much. Sure.
They should be more forthcoming. They make us ask all the questions. If they just said everything, we wouldn't have to keep asking.
Sure. There's loads more. Oh my god, what's the words? What is the word?
Dialogue?
No, I want to say like
Exposition?
exposition. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. I was like expose, exposure.
It's more expose.
There was way more expose that I could have potentially done, but I just didn't ask the questions.
Oh,
But then some of the questions are like really big questions, and it's like, would people really like? One of my favorites was like, what happened to Symbaroum? Which she would have answered and told you, by the way.
We should have asked that. That would have been good.
But I think Steve was starting to get a good idea of what happened to Symbaroum.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But like, it's just like, oh, here are some questions that answer mysteries of the setting. Yeah, she'll tell you. So that's
We
fun.
fluffed that, didn't we?
You got the pertinent stuff.
All I had
we
in my
might meet her again if we get this head out of the place.
Yeah. And you did. She did tell you essentially what the Iron Pact was and why they do what they do, and like that kind of cosmology of the Iron Pact. She told you that. So that's good.
I think like it felt like most of what the Iron Pact was about, we kind of get by insinuation anyway, right? Like
Sure.
This agreement to keep these things separate.
But yeah, fundamental dogma.
When we were asking questions there, I was just reminded of, I don't know if everyone's seen it, but there are YouTube videos where Jonathan Frakes, who played Riker, just asks a series of questions.
Yeah. From when he presented that mystery show in the 90s.
Yeah.
Do you have a bike?
Yeah.
Is it cold where you are?
Have you ever been to the seaside? Like,
Yeah.
Have you ever wondered what it's like?
Next.
Let's go.
It's Steve. She's going to put that on her fridge. What the Mind Stone?
The portrait.
Picture. Yeah.
I was just
fridge.
Yeah, I don't know if elves have fridges, but just like human art to them is presumably kind of
like children's art.
Right.
Yeah.
I tell you what else they don't have: normal emotional responses.
No,
cold as ice. That one.
I'm just imagining an elf's fridge is just a fridge, but it's full of leaves. What?
It's Narnia.
And if you're invited round for dinner, they'll be like, "Oh, go ahead, the fridge is there. Elf yourself."
Oh no.
Get out.
I was, of course, with that joke, harkening back to actual sort of elf and fairy mythology in which fairies eat flowers. Yeah, that's definitely what I was doing, not just making a joke about leaves in the fridge. That I thought I could make clever later by adding that. Next. Steve, has Ascarai got his Iron Pact ring on? I presume not. That was a question. I probably should have asked that question.
I replied in chat saying definitely not.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
But I did then like the follow-up.
How'd you join up? I've got a ring already. One of the questions that it's got on there is, can I join the Iron Pact? Yeah.
I was going to ask for like temporary visa rings so we could just go and pass, but like we didn't. We're probably not going to need them. We're going to roll a big room full of horrors.
Well, I live in Britain, so I'm fundamentally against the idea of even a temporary visa under extraordinary circumstances.
Oh, God.
Politics. I want to make it clear I don't approve of that. Like, in case you were like, oh, he's all for it.
That went real dark real quick.
Well, maybe if my country was less of a towering disgrace. Yeah. So, have we got anything more in the comments, John?
No, I think that's a good enough note.
I think that's a good point to stop. So thanks for watching. Next week, and I've got to discuss this with these folks after the stream stops. Next week will probably either be a stream on a different day or a break. Hopefully a stream on a different day. I would prefer that, but we have to discuss it. So we'll let people know via social media and Discord, because I can't do Wednesday, essentially, folks. So yes. But on that note, we will hopefully catch you next week. But either way, we will catch you again for Symbaroum in the not too distant future. And go have a word with Mayor Nightpitch. Take care out there, folks. Stay safe. See you soon.